This is Mr. Eugene, and today we're discussing one of the most significant shifts happening in the dating market right now, what I call the great value reversal of 2026. For decades, the average man, the stable, reliable, steady, quiet man, who works hard, pays his bills, stays out of trouble, and builds consistent life, was told he wasn't enough, wasn't exciting enough, wasn't tall enough, wasn't rich enough, wasn't confident enough, wasn't alpha enough. He was overlooked, friend-zoned, dismissed as nice but boring, or kept as backup option while women pursued more exciting men. But something fundamental has shifted. In a world where chaos has become normal, where reliability is rare, where stable men are disappearing from the dating market, the average man, the man who was dismissed as not enough for years, has suddenly become the gold standard, the most requested partner, the man women are desperately seeking because they've finally realized, usually too late, that excitement doesn't build stable lives, and that the bad boys and high-status men they chase don't make good long-term partners. The problem? By the time women recognized the value of average men, those men had already recognized their own value and made a decision. They're done. They're no longer interested in being the consolation prize. They're no longer available to women who spent their peak years chasing other men and now want to settle for stability. They're saying no. Loudly, permanently. And before we get into this, let me tell you why this matters personally and why I'm willing to celebrate what many will call petty vindication but is actually just market correction. Because I've watched this shift happen in real time. I've counseled dozens of average men, good men with stable jobs, consistent character, reliable presence, who spent their 20s and 30s being told they weren't enough, who watched women their age chase exciting men, dramatic relationships, high-status partners, who were friend-zoned, kept as emotional support, or told you're great, but I just don't feel that spark. These men improved themselves, built careers, developed emotional intelligence, stayed in shape, became exactly what they were told women wanted. And by their 40s and 50s, women suddenly wanted them, suddenly recognized their value, suddenly saw stability as attractive. But by then, these men had developed clarity. They'd recognized that they were being selected not because women actually valued them, but because women had exhausted better options and were settling for what was left. And they said no. They chose peace, autonomy, and dignity over being someone's backup plan. So if you're here expecting me to tell average men to be grateful for female attention after years of rejection and to accept being settled for, you're in the wrong place. This is about understanding why the value reversal is happening, why average men are finally being recognized, and why they're choosing to say no to women who wouldn't have chosen them 10 years ago. Stay with me. Today we're examining the great value reversal, why average men are suddenly in demand, what changed in the market, and why these men are choosing to opt out rather than accept their new status as most requested. Defining the average man first, let's be clear about who we're talking about. The average man isn't a man of mediocre character or low capability. Average here refers to his position in the sexual marketplace as it's been traditionally evaluated. The average man is economically stable but not wealthy. He earns decent income, maybe $60,000 to $100,000 annually depending on location. He's not struggling, but he's not rich. He can support himself comfortably. He has modest savings, he's financially responsible but not impressive by status metrics, physically normal but not remarkable. He's average height, 5 feet 9 inches to 6 feet 0 inches. He's in decent shape, not obese but not ripped. He maintains basic health, he's not turning heads but he's not repulsive. He's just normal looking, professionally competent but not high status. He has respectable career. Maybe skilled trades, middle management, technical roles, small business owner, stable employment. Good work ethic, but not CEO, not doctor, not lawyer, not high-status profession that generates social prestige. Emotionally stable and reliable. This is where average man actually excels. He's consistent, he's steady, he's not volatile, he doesn't create drama, he's emotionally mature, he manages his life competently, he's reliable, shows up when he says he will, follows through on commitments, can be counted on. Low drama and conflict averse. He doesn't generate chaos. Doesn't have enemies, doesn't have criminal record or addiction issues, doesn't have crazy exes causing problems. His life is stable, predictable, peaceful. He avoids unnecessary conflict and maintains harmonious relationships with family, friends, colleagues. This is the average man, and for decades this man was told he wasn't enough. Women wanted more height, more income, more status, more excitement, more edge, more alpha qualities. The average man was the backup plan, the guy women settled for after exciting options didn't work out. What women were chasing instead. So if average men weren't what women wanted, what were they chasing? What did enough look like in the dating market for the past few decades? The high-status man, doctors, lawyers, executives, entrepreneurs. Men with impressive titles, high income, social prestige. Men who could elevate her status through association. Men whose careers were impressive enough to brag about to friends and family. These men were in high demand. Women competed for them. And because these men had options, they often didn't commit, played the field, had women available without having to invest much effort. The physically exceptional man, tall men, 6'2", very handsome men, extremely fit men, men who turned heads, generated social proof, made her look good in photos, men whose physical presence validated her attractiveness. These men also had abundant options and often didn't need to develop character or reliability because their physical attributes were enough to generate female interest. The exciting bad boy men with edge, men who were unpredictable, dramatic, slightly dangerous, men who generated emotional intensity through chaos, men who didn't follow rules, didn't care about social approval, did what they wanted. Women found these men exciting. The relationships were volatile, lots of drama, lots of passion, lots of intensity. Women became addicted to the emotional roller coaster these men provided. The socially dominant men who were center of attention. Life of the party, socially connected, high social status within peer groups, men who could provide social experiences, connections, status within social hierarchies. These men provided lifestyle and experiences women found valuable for Instagram, for social validation, for feeling like they were living interesting lives. For decades, these categories of men, high status, physically exceptional, exciting, socially dominant, were what women pursued. And the average man? He was told he needed to become more like these men to be attractive, more alpha, more ambitious, more exciting, more dominant. The implication was clear. As you are, you're not enough. Why the reversal is happening. So what changed? Why are average men suddenly the gold standard instead of the backup plan? Shift 1. Women are older with different priorities. The women who spent their 20s chasing high status and exciting men are now in their mid-30s to mid-40s. And their priorities have shifted. Not because they've matured necessarily, but because their circumstances have changed. They're no longer looking for excitement and passion. They've had excitement. It didn't build stable lives. They're now looking for stability, reliability, consistency. The qualities the average man always had but weren't valued when she was younger. They're looking for partners who will actually commit, who won't create chaos, who can help build stable life together. And the men who have these qualities? Average men. The men they overlooked for decades. Shift 2. The exciting men didn't commit. Women spent years pursuing high status and exciting men. Many succeeded in attracting these men temporarily. But these men, who had abundant options, largely didn't commit. They played the field, had casual relationships, moved on to younger women when convenient. So women who spent their peak years pursuing these men ended up without the stable relationships they assumed would eventually materialize. They got excitement but not commitment. And now, older with declining market value, they're realizing, I need to adjust strategy. I need men who will actually commit and build stable life with me. Shift 3, high-value men are taken or dating younger, the high-status men who do commit. They've largely committed already, often to younger women who appreciated them earlier or to women who prioritized them when they were still building their careers. The high-status men who haven't committed are often dating significantly younger women. A successful 50-year-old man can easily date women in their 30s. He's not limited to women his age. So women in their 40s looking for high-status men discover, these men aren't available to me. They're dating younger or already partnered. Shift 4. The average man's value has increased relatively as the supply of stable, reliable men in the dating market has decreased. Because many have married, many have opted out, many are dating younger. The remaining average men have seen their relative value increase dramatically. It's basic supply and demand. Reliable men used to be common, now they're rare. Women looking for stability discover the stable men their age are either already partnered or have removed themselves from dating market entirely. The remaining stable men? Suddenly very valuable. Shift 5. Women are experiencing consequences. Women in their late 30s and 40s are now experiencing consequences of decisions made in their 20s. Years spent pursuing exciting men who didn't commit means arriving at ages where fertility is declining, market value is lower, options are fewer, and biological clocks are urgent, without the stable partnerships they need. Panic sets in. The strategy that worked in their 20s, attracting high-status men casually, doesn't work anymore. They need to adjust. And that adjustment means pursue the average men we dismissed for years because those men will actually commit and build stable lives with us. Why average men are saying no, so women have recognized the value of average men and are now pursuing them. Problem solved, right? Women want what average men offer. Average men finally get the appreciation they deserved all along. Everyone partners up and lives happily. Except that's not what's happening. Because by the time women recognized average men's value, those men had already done their own calculation, and they're saying no. Emphatically, permanently. Reason 1, they recognize they're the backup plan. Average men understand exactly what's happening. They're not being chosen because women genuinely value them. They're being chosen because better options didn't work out. They're the consolation prize, the safe bet. The guy she settles for after exciting options proved unworkable. And men don't want to be backup plans. They don't want to be what she accepts after exhausting what she actually wanted. They want to be first choice, pursued for their actual qualities, valued for who they are, not settled for because circumstances forced her to lower standards. When a 40-year-old woman who spent her 20s and 30s chasing high-status men suddenly shows interest in the average guy she friend-zoned 15 years ago, he knows exactly what that interest represents: desperation and settling, not genuine appreciation. Reason 2, they watched how she treated better men. Average men often watched from the friend zone or from the periphery as women gave their best years, their peak attractiveness, their sexual enthusiasm, their youthful energy to other men. Men who often treated them poorly, men who didn't commit, men who were exciting but unreliable. And now those same women want average men to commit to them after they've given their best to others. After they're older, less attractive, more damaged by failed relationships, more cynical, more demanding, with more baggage. Average men look at this transaction and think, you gave your best to men who didn't value you. You want me to accept what's left after you've been diminished by years of bad choices. Why would I accept that deal? Reason 3, the deal has gotten worse even beyond being backup plan. The actual relationship deal being offered to average men has gotten dramatically worse over past decades. Modern women expect traditional male provision. He earns well, provides financially, pays for dates, contributes more economically, combined with modern egalitarian relationship structure, split domestic labor 50-50ths, she maintains career independence, decisions are joint, no traditional male authority. So average men are expected to provide like traditional husbands while accepting modern relationship terms that eliminate traditional benefits. All obligation, no authority. All responsibility, no respect. All provision, no appreciation. And average men are looking at this deal and saying, no, this doesn't serve me. Why would I accept structure where I provide everything I would have provided traditionally but receive none of what I would have received in return? Not reason 4, they've discovered peace. Many average men, particularly those over 40, have discovered something unexpected. Single life is actually good, really good, better than modern relationships offer. They have peace, autonomy, freedom from drama, control over their own lives, no one to answer to, no one to perform for, no one to constantly try to satisfy. They work, they pursue hobbies, they see friends, they live quietly according to their own priorities, and they've realized this peace is more valuable than conditional companionship and occasional intimacy that comes at cost of autonomy, drama, emotional labor, and constant performance. They're not lonely, they're not desperate, they're content. An accepting relationship would require surrendering that contentment for something that, based on observation of other men's relationships, looks far worse than what they have. Reason 5, they've done the math. Average men, many of whom are in practical analytical professions, have done cost-benefit analysis of modern relationships. Costs: surrendering autonomy over finances, time, living space, social life, daily schedule, providing emotional labor constantly, managing her emotions and insecurities, performing constantly to maintain her satisfaction, risking half or more of assets in divorce she can initiate at any time, accepting chronic dissatisfaction regardless of effort, potentially losing children to custody arrangements favoring mothers. Benefits: conditional companionship, occasional intimacy declining over time, shared expenses which don't offset his higher contribution, social validation minimal, single men not stigmatized anymore. They calculate expected value, costs are high, guaranteed, and permanent. Benefits are low, conditional, and decline over time. The math doesn't work. Rational choices stay single. Reason 6, optionality has shifted. Something surprising has happened. Average men over 40, particularly those with stable income and decent health, have discovered they have options women their age don't expect. They can date younger if they want relationships. A stable 50-year-old man is attractive to women in their 30s who value reliability over excitement. His relative value is higher with younger women than with women his age who spent years dismissing men like him, or they can simply opt out and maintain peace. This isn't failure, it's preference. They prefer solo life to the relationship deal being offered by women their age. Either way, they're not desperate for relationships with women who wouldn't have wanted them 10 years ago. They have better options, younger women who appreciate them from the start, or peaceful solo life, or both sequentially. Reason 7, dignity and self-respect. Ultimately, saying no to being backup plan is about dignity and self-respect. Average men spent decades being told they weren't enough. They internalized that, they believed it, they felt inadequate, but over time, they recognized, I'm not inadequate. The system was just measuring me by metrics designed to make me feel insufficient. I was always enough. The problem wasn't me. It was the unrealistic, contradictory, impossible standards I was being measured against. And now that women are saying, actually, you were enough all along, we just didn't realize it. Average men are responding too late. I recognize my value now, and I'm not accepting settlement offers from women who spent years communicating I was inadequate. It's not bitterness. It's self-respect. Refusing to accept being treated as consolation prize is healthy boundary, not vindictiveness. What women are experiencing. So what does this look like from women's perspective? What are they experiencing as average men say no? Experience 1. Confusion. Women are genuinely confused. They finally recognized that stable, reliable men are what they should have been seeking all along. They've adjusted their standards to pursue average men. They think they're being reasonable, realistic, mature, and those men are saying no. The men who were supposed to be grateful for female attention, the men who were told they weren't enough and should be happy anyone wanted them. Those men are turning down opportunities women are offering. This is confusing because it contradicts the narrative women expected. They lower their standards to average men. Average men gratefully accept. Everyone partners up. Experience 2. Rejection. Many women are experiencing rejection for the first time in their lives. Throughout their 20s and 30s, they were the selectors. They chose. Men pursued, women selected. They always had options, always had men available who wanted them. Now they're pursuing average men and getting rejected, getting no thank you, getting I'm not interested, getting ghosted or getting clear boundaries that he's not seeking relationships with women his age. This is psychologically devastating because it's role reversal they're not prepared for. They're not supposed to be the rejected party. They're supposed to be selectors. And average men they were told were beneath them for years, are rejecting them. Experience 3. Resentment. Some women respond to rejection with resentment. Anger that average men won't accept their offers, bitterness that men they consider below their standards are acting like they're too good for them. I'm offering commitment to these men, and they're saying no? Who do they think they are? They should be grateful. This reveals the entitlement. Belief that average men owe them acceptance, that saying no is somehow illegitimate, that men who don't match up in the traditional sexual marketplace hierarchy don't get to reject women offering them relationships. Experience 4. Blame. Predictably, women blame men. Articles appear, why are average men so bitter? Why can't average men handle successful women? Why are average men refusing to grow up and commit? The framing is always, men are failing, men are inadequate, men are the problem. Never, maybe our expectations were unrealistic. Maybe we made poor choices. Maybe we need to offer more value to men we're pursuing. Maybe men have legitimate reasons for saying no. Always men's fault for not accepting what women are offering. Never women's responsibility for offering deals men rationally reject. Experience 5. Adjustment or resignation. Eventually, women adjust or resign. Some moderate their expectations further, pursue men below average, accept much worse deals, settle for men they're not attracted to because options are limited. Some accept solo life rather than accepting men they consider inadequate. Some continue pursuing average men and eventually find ones willing to accept them, though often men with their own significant issues or limitations. But the high-value, stable average men, the men who represent best options women now seek, those men increasingly aren't available. They've recognized their value and chosen peace over partnership that doesn't serve them. The market correction. What we're witnessing is market correction after decades of distortion. For years, average men's value was artificially suppressed by cultural narratives, social media distortions, hypergamy enabled by technology, and unrealistic female standards elevated by entertainment and social comparison. The market told average men, you're not enough. Improve yourself dramatically or accept that women won't want you. Many men believed this. They tried to improve. They worked on themselves. They built careers, maintained health, developed emotional intelligence, and women still didn't choose them because women were measuring them against distorted standards and pursuing men in top 10 to 20%, while average men, 60th to 80th percentile men, were dismissed as inadequate. Now reality is asserting itself. Reality 1. Most women cannot secure commitment from top 10 to 20% men. Those men have too many options and largely don't commit or commit to younger women. Reality 2. Most women need stable relationships more than they need excitement, especially as they age and fertility market value decline. Reality 3. Average men, stable, reliable, consistent men, are actually rare and valuable, especially as many have married or opted out of dating market. Reality 4. Average men have recognized their value and developed boundaries where they won't accept being consolation prizes. Market is correcting to reality, and the correction is painful. for women who spent peak years operating under false assumptions about their value and options. What this means for average men. So what should average men understand about this reversal? Understanding 1, your value is real. You were always enough. The messaging that you were inadequate was distorted by cultural factors that artificially inflated female standards beyond sustainability. Your stability, reliability, consistency, emotional maturity, these are genuinely valuable qualities. The fact that women didn't recognize that value until they'd exhausted other options doesn't mean the value wasn't there all along. Understanding 2, you owe no one acceptance. Women who dismissed you for years suddenly recognizing your value doesn't create obligation for you to accept them. You're not required to be grateful for attention from women who would have rejected you 10 years ago. You're not obligated to be the backup plan, the safety net, the consolation prize. You can say no, emphatically, without guilt, without needing to justify. You're not being petty or bitter, you're exercising healthy boundaries and self-respect. Understanding 3, you have options, you're not desperate. You're not in weak negotiating position. You can choose solo life and peace. You can date younger women who appreciate you from start rather than settling for you after exhausting alternatives. You can wait for women who genuinely value you as first choice. Or you can pursue relationships with women your age if you find ones who demonstrably valued stable men all along, not just recently when options ran out. But you're choosing from position of strength, not accepting whatever you can get. Understanding 4, don't compromise on being first choice. If you do pursue relationships, don't accept being backup plan. Ensure the woman chose you because she genuinely values who you are, not because she exhausted better options and your acceptable alternative. How do you know? Her past behavior. If she spent years pursuing high status or exciting men and now suddenly finds average men attractive, your backup plan. If she consistently valued stability and reliability, demonstrated that through choices and pursued men like you all along, she might genuinely value you. But most women approaching average men in their 40s fall into first category, not second. Screen carefully. Understanding 5, protect your peace. If you've discovered that solo life provides peace that relationships wouldn't match, protect that peace. Don't surrender it for conditional companionship that requires constant performance, emotional labor, and surrender of autonomy. Peace is underrated. Most men don't recognize its value until they have it. Once you have it, be very reluctant to trade it for relationship structures that look, from observation of other men's experiences, like they'd destroy it. What this means for women, and for women recognizing that average men are what you should have been pursuing all along, understanding 1, he recognizes what this is, he knows he's backup plan. He knows you're settling after better options didn't work out. He knows that if high-status man you pursued 10 years ago suddenly became available, you'd leave him for that man. He knows exactly what your interest represents, and that knowledge makes your offer unappealing. Because no one wants to be settled for. No one wants to be accepted after being rejected for years. No one wants to be the man you choose when you can't get who you actually want. Understanding 2, you're offering him a bad deal. You're asking him to commit significant resources, time, money, emotional energy to you after you've given your best years to other men. You're asking him to accept you at lower market value than you had when you were rejecting men like him. You're asking him to enter relationship structure with massive risks for him and minimal accountability for you. Why would he accept this? What are you offering that justifies what you're asking him to provide? If you can't answer that honestly, you understand why he's saying no. Understanding 3, lowering standards isn't enough. You think you've been reasonable by adjusting from pursuing top 20% men to being open to average men. But lowering your standards doesn't mean you're offering good value proposition to those men. Average men don't just want to be accepted. They want to be valued. They want reciprocal relationships where both parties contribute proportionally. They want to be first choice, not fallback option. Lowering standards means you're willing to accept them. It doesn't mean you're offering them reasons to accept you. Those are different things. Understanding 4, his peace is valuable. Many average men have discovered that single life is peaceful. More peaceful than most modern relationships appear to be. And they're reluctant to trade that peace for relationships that require constant performance and emotional labor. If you want him to choose relationship with you over peace of solo life, you need to offer a relationship that enhances his peace rather than disrupting it. That means being pleasant, agreeable, supportive, reciprocal, low drama, high value addition to his life. Are you offering that? Or are you offering modern relationship where he provides traditional benefits while receiving modern limitations? Understanding 5, some doors close permanently. The average men who were interested in you 10 years ago, who you rejected or friend-zoned or kept as emotional support while pursuing other men, many of those men have closed that door permanently. They're not holding grudges. They're not bitter. They've just moved on. They've built lives that work without you. They've developed peace you weren't part of. And reopening that door means disrupting peace they value. You can't go back. You can't reclaim opportunities you rejected. Those men might have been perfect for you, but that was then. Now they've moved on. The door is closed, accept it, and move forward rather than trying to reopen doors that won't budge. Final thoughts? Let me tell you why I'm sharing this, despite knowing it will be called celebration of female suffering or validation of male bitterness. Because it's neither. It's describing a market correction that's happening in real time. A correction where men who were told for decades they weren't enough are finally recognizing they were always enough, and are choosing to protect their dignity and peace rather than accepting settlement offers from women who wouldn't have chosen them before. This isn't vindictive, it's rational. Average men are making rational calculations about what serves them and choosing accordingly. They're saying no to being backup plans. They're saying no to bad deals. They're saying no to surrendering peace for relationships that don't offer equivalent value. And I've watched this shift happen across hundreds of men I've counseled, men who finally developed self-respect after years of being told they were inadequate. Men who recognize their stability and reliability are genuinely valuable. Men who chose dignity over desperation. Men who said, I'm enough. And if you didn't recognize that when it mattered, I'm not available now that you've exhausted alternatives. This channel exists because I want both men and women to understand this dynamic before more time is wasted, more opportunities are lost, more people end up alone because of miscalculations about value and timing. For men, you are enough. You are always enough. Protect your peace. Exercise boundaries. Don't accept being backup plan. Your value is real, and you deserve to be first choice or nothing. For women, the average men you dismissed are no longer available when it's convenient for you. They've recognized their value and made different choices. You had opportunities you didn't take. Accept consequences rather than blaming men for refusing to accept settlement offers. Drop a comment about your experience. Average men, are you experiencing this reversal? Are women who rejected you years ago suddenly interested? Are you saying no? Women, are you discovering that average men are harder to attract than expected? Share your observations. Subscribe for more truth about market dynamics that are shifting rapidly. Because this channel will never tell average men to be grateful for attention from women who wouldn't have wanted them years ago. We'll never tell women that lowering standards obligates men to accept them. We'll never pretend that timing doesn't matter and that opportunities don't close. The great value reversal is here. Average men are being recognized, and they're saying, thanks, but no thanks. I recognize my value now, and you're too late.